Hello and welcome back to Stop and Go F1 for this, our reactions to qualifying in Bahrain. Well, you know what? There is a lot of big stories coming out of this session. We'll get into all of that and more in just 1 second. Before that, remember to like and subscribe. Those are the rules. You have to do that, unfortunately. Not my rules, the rules of YouTube. But also, a huge shout out to the members: Dakota, The Joyous James, Ryan Myers, Cinnamon Strudel, Michael Johnson, F, Edam on Sandwiches, and newest member, Mr. Eurovision 1986. If you want to become a member, click the link in the description down below, either on the Patreon or on YouTube. But let's get into qualifying here right now, starting with Q1. And you know what? It's been a bad day for Esteban Ocon, and it started badly in Q1 because whilst everyone's starting putting their bank laps in, getting those initial times on the board, he's in the garage with what looked like a seat change. It could have been something different, but the seat was out of the car. He stood by the side of it. Obviously, he wasn't comfortable with whatever was going on from there, and the day would just get worse for him as we go on. Max Verstappen also very uncomfortable in his car, not due to the seats, but more to do with the brakes. A big lock-up for him into the final corner on his first fast lap, which is very, very unlike him. I can't even remember the last time we saw him lock up a tyre, to be fair. Very unlike him, but he was really, really struggling with the car today. Yuki Tsunoda also struggling with the Red Bull. His lap time was deleted, his first lap time that he put down. Cars that aren't struggling this weekend, though, are the Alpines. A huge change to where they were when we came to Bahrain this time last year. When it was the first race of the year last year, I should say. When they were the slowest cars on the grid, they locked out the back row. This weekend, they've turned up, and my God, they've got some pace. Shown initially in Q1 by Jack Doohan, who somehow was 5th, ahead of both George Russell and Lewis Hamilton. And the Alpine pace continued through all 3 sessions. With 5 minutes to go, it was all eyes on Red Bull, though, as both drivers had not set a lap time. It was going to be a one-lap wonder for both of them. Thankfully for the Red Bull fans, they did both set lap times and went through into Q2. Those who were out, though, in 20th was Ollie Behrman, 19th Lance Stroll, 18th Gabriel Bortoleto, 17th Liam Lawson, 16th, Alexander Albon. Ollie Behrman in 20th. His last lap was dreadful. We were on board for quite a bit of it, and it was just bad. It seemed like the car went wrong in basically every single corner for Ollie Behrman, who will be starting from 20th place. Lance Stroll makes it 2 weekends in a row, starting from the final grid. The final row of the grid. Bortoleto in the Sauber, I'm not too shocked. 18th, it's a Sauber. I mean, come on from there. Liam Lawson, this is his 3rd time out in Q1 in 4 races this year, but this time might not have necessarily been his fault, as the DRS failed on his last lap. He opened up the DRS and it gets closed straight away. He says it wasn't him, and it was an issue with the car, and the engineers seem to back him up on that statement as well. So maybe a bit more pace available for Lawson in tomorrow's race. Alex Albon's the interesting one, though, because I wrote down here how surprising it was to see him go out in Q1, and it was very close, 0.042. What we will discover later on in the session is, realistically, he should have gone through. Nico Hülkenberg's Q1 lap time, eventually, 45 minutes after it had been placed, was deleted for track limits, meaning Albon should have been 15th and should have gone through into Q2. Why this has happened, I'm not really sure. Why they couldn't notice it at the time, because I know they have all these automated systems now, and 9 times out of 10, they work really well. You know, it's very rare something like this happens, where it's like so long after they've gone, oh no, that lap time shouldn't have counted. But a very strange thing to happen here, and obviously has massively screwed over Albon, because he wasn't happy with the car. He sounded dejected on the radio, but if you go into Q2, maybe he would have got more and more comfortable with it, found more pace with it, and had a better position from there, but he will have to start from 15th tomorrow. An interesting question around this, though, because when it was announced that Hulkenberg's lap time had been deleted and we were halfway through Q3, the Crofty was like, this is unacceptable. This is unacceptable. And it's like, okay, I get where you're coming from. They should have seen it straight away, but they didn't. You know, this is a thing that it happens. It is a mistake. Mistakes happen. what is the better solution? Do you just ignore it and pretend it never happened? Or do you retroactively fix it 45 minutes later? Crofty was furious at this, but, I think that's the best they could do. If they don't notice it at the time, when they notice it later, it's better to do something than nothing, and that's what they did. There you go. Q2, the big story of Q2 is at the start is a big crash for Esteban Ocon. Coming out of turn 3, lost the rear end of the car, then got caught up on the curbs and right into the wall on the opposite side of the track from where the most infamous Haas crash of all time happened, that one of Romain Grosjean in 2020. Thankfully, this was nowhere near as bad as that, but it does end Esteban Ocon's Q2. Thankfully, he said that he was okay. It took him a while to get out of the car, but he did say that he was okay. When the session is restarting, there's a bit of an issue with the Mercedes cars who go and line up in the pit lane before the FIA said it was okay to go and line up in the pit lane. I imagine this will just be a fine. I hope that it doesn't affect their grid position because that's a team error. That's not a driver error. So I think handing out grid penalties would be a bit harsh on that one, and that should just be a fine for the team. Max Verstappen, though, when the session restarts, he continues to struggle. Despite a lap time looking quite good, he aborted his lap for the second time today and had to go down to one lap only. And as session 2 ends, Esteban Ocon obviously is 15th, no lap time set for him. Fernando Alonso was 14th, Hülkenberg was 13th, but will now be 16th. Hadjar was 12th and Doohan in 11th. Fernando Alonso in 14th sounded quite happy on the radio, saying that the team had maximised what they had. Obviously not thinking very much of the Aston Martin at all if maximising what they had was 14th place, but there you go, Fernando sounded happy, so who am I to judge? Isaac Hadjar, a good performance for him. I think he continues to impress, and I think 12th is pretty good with the car that they had today. Jack Doohan missing out on his first ever Q3 by 0.017 of a second. A very good performance from Jack Doohan, and the Alpines looking very good on what is Flavio Briatore's 75th birthday, I believe. There you go. Happy birthday, Flavio. Then as we go into Q3, this is the top 10 after everyone's first lap. So, Verstappen was in P10, still complaining of braking, had a big slide through turn 4, not comfortable in that car whatsoever. He was 10th. Sainz was 9th, Gasly 8th, Tsunoda 7th, Antonelli in 6th, Hamilton 5th, Leclerc in 4th, and it was Norris 3rd, Russell 2nd, Piastri 1st. We get a few lap times deleted here. This is when Hülkenberg's lap time is deleted from Q1, but we also get lap times deleted for both Antonelli and Lewis Hamilton, so they're down to 1 lap only. George Russell, though, has been fantastic throughout this weekend thus far, and continues to be, because this is our top 10 for tomorrow. After everyone sets another lap in Q3, this is what we have. In 10th is Yuki Tsunoda, 9th Lewis Hamilton, 8th is Carlos Sainz. Max Verstappen can only do P7. In the biggest shock of the day, Lando Norris is 6th, Pierre Gasly 5th, Kimi Antonelli in 4th, Charles Leclerc is 3rd, George Russell in 2nd, and Oscar Piastri takes pole position for the Bahrain Grand Prix. Let's just run through this again here. Yuki Tsunoda in 10th. This is Red Bull's first double Q3 since Abu Dhabi last year, so heading in the right direction there. Yuki looking very good. I mean, on their first laps in Q3, he was faster than Verstappen. So Yuki looking good so far. I imagine Lewis Hamilton will be disappointed once again with his qualifying performance, only good enough for 9th. Charles Leclerc quite a bit in front of him in P3. Carlos Sainz in 8th, very good from him. Albon has struggled all this weekend, and I've been down on Sainz so far this year, saying I've been quite disappointed with his performances, but he has delivered so far this weekend. Hopefully, can turn that into something good for tomorrow. As I said, Max Verstappen, only good enough for P7, has struggled all day, but despite this, despite struggling all day, is still only about a 10th and a half off the back of Norris, who is incredibly disappointed, and his in his post-session interview, which it looked like he wanted to get done very quickly because they had it immediately. He must have just got out of the car, ran to the media pens, answered the questions as quick as he could, and moved on because they're like, "What went wrong, Lando? I'm not quick enough." Okay. Anything else? Nope. It's like, oh, okay. So yeah, he's very disappointed with that session, and I'm not surprised because with the pace the McLarens have had this weekend, to be in P6 will be quite a shock for him. I imagine he was expecting minimum second. But yeah, work for him to do tomorrow, but it's a track where it's easy to overtake, and he has a fast car underneath him. The star of the day for me, well, it's between two. But one of the stars, Pierre Gasly in fifth. Unbelievable. And you could tell how happy he was on the radio with his performances. That is one to remember for him. Very much reminds me of the polar bear in Texas meme. That is Pierre Gasly in qualifying here today in P5. Kimi Antonelli, another good session for him in P4. He's getting better and better all the time. And you know what? I said in the preview I wouldn't be surprised if he got his first podium this weekend. And right now, I think the Mercedes is faster than the Ferrari. Who's to say? It could beat Leclerc tomorrow, get on that podium. Depends on how good Norris can be. But we know the McLaren doesn't work as well in traffic. So how will that play into it as well? Lots of questions going in tomorrow. Charles Leclerc in third is another one to celebrate as well, because even though Ferrari have turned up with this new floor this weekend, they've had no real visible pace up until this point. So to have that in P3 is a fantastic lap from Leclerc. George Russell, though, is another one of my stars of today. A fantastic, fantastic lap from him. And, Mercedes have had this thing now for at least since about 2022, where they turn up on a weekend, they look fast in practice 1, they look fast in practice 2, fast in practice 3, qualifying happens, they're nowhere, then they're in the middle of the top 10 for the race. And it seems to repeat every weekend now for at least 3 years. But they have finally delivered on the promise of practice. I said it last week where, McLaren's look so fast in Japan. In the practice sessions, it looked like Mercedes were their closest rivals. That didn't happen. It was Max Verstappen. This weekend, it looked like Mercedes were their closest rivals, and they are. A great lap from George Russell there. But the man of the hour, the man with the power, Oscar Piastri. The second pole position of his career. He is the first repeat pole position person of the year. Pole sitter is the phrase I should have used there. The first repeat pole sitter of the year. And so far this year, every single race has been won from pole position. So, looking good for Oscar Piastri for tomorrow's race. I mean, his pace has been incredible all weekend. I mean, that lap he did in FP3 was insane, where he's about a second faster than anyone else. And another good lap from him here. And if you watch the preview video, I said that I thought maybe Piastri was a bit quicker than Norris this weekend, and I was like, oh, I wonder if Piastri could overtake Norris in the championship this weekend. I was like, oh, no, that won't happen. If this race ends the same way it started, which is what happened in Japan, now I know in Bahrain it's much easier to overtake and all that, but hypothetically, if the race tomorrow ends the same way it starts in terms of this grid, Oscar Piastri becomes the championship leader by 4 points over Lando Norris. So that is something huge to watch out for tomorrow. As for who will win this race, I think Oscar Piastri should win this race relatively easily. The big question marks for me are around basically everyone else in this top 10, because there are people who are out of position. Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, they're all out of position. And then there's question marks like the guys like a Gasly, like a Sainz. What can they do? Can they defend? Where's Charles Leclerc's pace going to be? Can Kimi Antonelli get to the podium? Can Lando Norris get to the podium? He should have the pace to, but how does that car work in the dirty air in traffic where we've seen it struggle beforehand? Throw back to China a few weeks ago in that sprint race where Lando Norris spent most of his time being stuck behind Lance Stroll. So, there's big question marks around this race in general. I think it should be an exciting one. As for second down, I think first is pretty much set in stone unless something insane happens. But apart from that, we should have a very, very exciting race. And I'll be here to talk about all of it tomorrow. And also talking about F2 and F3. And if you have not seen the F2 and F3 sprint races this weekend, Go out of your way to find some highlights or watch the races, because they are some of the best racing I've seen in a very, very long time. So far, Bahrain has massively delivered in terms of entertainment. We break it all down tomorrow. F2, F3, F1, all of that to come on the channel. Driver Racings as well will be out on the Monday. Make sure you subscribe for all of that. We're also very, very close to 12,000 subscribers here on the channel. Can we get that before the end of the weekend? Hopefully we do. I will see you then. Until next time, have a good one. I'll see you later. Goodbye.